I'm in sunny New Mexico, just driving through the state, going from one rotation to another. Been driving for about 9 hours now, and so as you can probably surmise, I am extremely bored. So I got to thinking that, well, about 100 miles back, actually probably a lot more than that. I've kind of been dozing in and out of consciousness as I've been driving, so it's hard to tell time at this point. But a few hundred miles back, we'll say, probably in Texas, there were these wind turbines. And I don't know if you've seen these things. They're, gigantic. And if you see them up close, you will not believe how huge these things are. But unlike a normal person's reaction to wind turbines, a libertarian usually has a visceral hatred that bubbles up in their gut. Consequently, have to take antacids. And so my trip has been pretty uncomfortable so far since I saw those wind turbines. And you might be asking yourself why. Why am I having such gastrointestinal problems whenever I see wind turbines? Well, the reason is because wind turbines are a product of big government, and it's not just the fact that these things are a huge waste of money and resources. Of course, they are. I mean, they're a gigantic waste of money and resources. That's why they require so much subsidy all the time. I mean, T. Boone Pickens is always going on television and radio, I guess, and all the things that he does, and saying how we should get more wind turbines. We should basically plaster the entire Midwest or plain states or whatever in wind turbines, and that's going to solve our energy woes. Well, I got news for you. That's a really bad idea, because it's not just the fact that it's a waste of money, and these are a huge waste of money. I mean, just the amount of money it takes to build them, and then to construct them, to assemble them on site, and not only that, but to maintain them. I mean, if you go to these wind turbine fields, at any given time, about 10 to 30% of them are always stationary, and they're stationary probably because they're broken, and they require someone to go up there and fix them. And I'm imagining that's incredibly expensive over time. And of course, it wouldn't exist without government subsidy of these things. So, but it's not just that it's a waste of money. I mean, that's a waste of resources, waste of people's time, waste of that laborer's labor as they go out there and they fix these things that are practically worthless. It's not just that. It's also the fact that by subsidizing energy in any form, especially that form though, but in any form at all, they are diverting demand away from real, viable alternative energy sources. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you lower the price of energy, guess what? There's less demand for alternatives. It's basic economics 101. I mean, you really can't avoid it in that class. If you don't understand this concept, you're probably not going to pass that class. And, of course, a lot of people don't really understand basic economics. I would say probably most people, but I mean, it's really seriously not that tough. I mean, basically, if I'm an investor and I need a lot of money in order to get my thing off the ground, I'm going to only invest in something that's going to yield me a lot more profit, and it's only going to do that if the price is high. So if you lower the price, less likely I'm going to get in that market. Well, let's take an example. So right now there's some theory going around that the next viable alternative energy source is probably going to be fusion. Now, fusion, just like, and this we're talking about nuclear fusion, but like nuclear fission, it requires, it's basically having to do with atoms and basically extracting the energy from changing atoms from one atom into another. Kind of. Well, in fusion that's the case. But basically, the fuel for a fusion reaction, at least in theory, is going to be what's called heavy water. Heavy water is in great abundance in the Earth, in just the oceans. It's actually a sizable percentage of the water molecules in the ocean. It's something like 1%, which is huge. Are made of this heavy water. Heavy water is It's basically regular water, only it's got a few more neutrons in it. And you can basically turn heavy water, minus, I'm guessing, the oxygen, into helium. So you turn the hydrogens that are got extra neutrons, you turn those into helium, and it releases an enormous amount of energy. Well, what's keeping? Why don't we have that right now? Well, energy prices are really, really low right now. And it may come as a surprise to you, but we're subsidizing all sorts of different forms of energy, like, for instance, in the form of wind turbines and solar, and I'm sure there's even some ethanol power plants, which I can't even imagine just how ungodly expensive those are. I mean, we got to subsidize the farmer, and we probably subsidize the ethanol after that, and then probably subsidize the plant itself when it's producing energy. So we're lowering the price of energy. We're destroying all the fruits of the labor of the people who could have been doing something else with their time, and then on top of that, we're also destroying viable alternative energy sources. So as our fossil fuels continue to dwindle, however your opinion may be about that, we're not replacing it with anything. And one of the reasons is because the government is diverting resources and channeling demand into things that it shouldn't be. And the reason why is usually because the people who build these things, like for instance General Electric, are extremely powerful, and they're well connected in government. And it's not just that, but also, the environmentalists that push these things have zero concept of physics or chemistry about 99% of the time. I mean, these are the people that saw 3 Mile Island, which was a nuclear accident it was like 35, 40 years ago now, I don't even know. It's been a long time since we had a nuclear accident in the United States, and yet they're really even against nuclear power, because their understanding of it is just basically nil. And understanding of most things is usually that. They really understand only how to make picket signs and how to scream the most shrilly. So that's my little rant about alternative power sources and wind turbines specifically. But I mean, eventually we're going to run out of fossil fuels, and we need a viable alternative energy source. And the only way to get that is to allow energy to naturally become more expensive. And that's pretty much the TLDR on that one. So anyways, again, this is Late Wire coming to you from my car on the way to another state. Hopefully that will be coming up anytime now.